Absolutely. So I went to school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and that's where the Wienermobile is headquartered, is in Madison, Wisconsin. So I got kind of lucky there that I was kind of familiar with it going into college, because past journalism students like me had driven it before. They always love a Badger on their team. But I didn't really think about driving the Wienermobile until my senior year of college, and I was kind of scrambling for positions. I'm a journalism major, for Christ's sakes, and I was like, what am I going to do?
I can either not have a job, or I can go drive the Wienermobile.
Right. I was like, what am I going to do with this degree? And I knew someone at the time who was driving it. She's actually also from Southern Illinois, more like towards St. Louis area.
Oh, good. I was like, don't tell me I'm going to have to do 2 Hotdogger WTF Carbondale podcasts.
Not from Carbondale, but she was a mutual friend from Southern Illinois, and she was posted about driving the Wienermobile, and I just kind of a spark hit me, and I was like, I went to school during the pandemic. I was supposed to go abroad. I was supposed to do so many things and see the world, and instead, I'd been pent up in my room doing online school, and I've never been really someone who takes myself too seriously. And I just saw this job, and I was like, that's absolutely perfect. It was just kind of like a no-brainer for me that I was like, all right, I'm going to drive the Wienermobile now. So put all my eggs in one basket. It's the only job I applied for my senior year in spring. I wrote my resume, cover letter, read it over 1,000 times. I included some creative application material, sent it off, went through all the rounds of interviews, and I just had a really, really good feeling about it. And I got the phone call, and here I am today, driving a giant hot dog on wheels.
Was there was it intimidating to drive this thing? Like, did you have were you comfortable piloting things that weren't just a traditional car before you jumped into this whole thing?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I'd driven a Toyota Highlander before, so that's
basically like a third of this
basically,
thing.
Yeah. It's not 27 feet long, but we did go to Hotdogger High, so we get really good training. We get trained by the police officers in Madison, Wisconsin.
Which is weird when you're high and doing, no, I'm just, Hotdogger High.
Right, no.
You got me too much in my comfort zone. Like, I'm really like, you're right, we're both going to get canceled on this podcast. You're going to lose a job, I'm going to lose a...
Not aiming for that. Not aiming for that. No. Hotdogger High, our training program. We got trained to drive the Wienermobile. And to be honest, yeah, it was a little bit intimidating. I mean, it's a giant vehicle. It's a giant hot dog. But we started small. We started like in SUVs, moved up to like box trucks. And then we did like some defensive driving courses with the Wienermobile. And after like 2 days, they're like, all right, you're set. And I was like, what? I was like, that's all? They're like, you're fine. Everyone, they just trusted us. And that's the biggest thing about this job is our bosses trust us with a 27-foot-long hot dog on wheels for an entire year. But after a few days on the road, it's easy peasy cheesy, really. It comes naturally after a while.
Do the hot dog puns also come naturally?
Yes. What I like to say is, I mean, we learned a lot at Hotdogger High. We have a Hotdogger handbook full of them, but I'm a corny dog all on my own. I love puns. I've always been very punny. Always been a bit cheesy, if I do say so myself. So it's true.
I'm dead right now. This is so exactly what I could have ever hoped it to be for the 114th episode of the WTF Carbondale podcast. Where we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, and we tie it all back to this little old place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois. Where my guest on this podcast, and I'm going to butcher your name, and I apologize, Keagan Schlosser?
Schlosser, so close.
All right.
Hey, call me Chili Cheese Keegs.
Chili Cheese Keegs. In the house. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for taking like working with me over the course of like months to like land at just the right time to do a podcast.
Absolutely, and Frank, you very much. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to be here today. I'm happy to be in Carbondale with the Wienermobile.
So is there like, you say Frank you, right? And that's clearly thank you. But could it also be used in more aggressive terms, like Frank you guys, Frank you?
I mean, certainly if someone's cutting us off, maybe I mutter under my breath while driving the Wienermobile. But mainly I'm mainly thanking people.
So you stay in your lane, so to speak.
Absolutely.
I'm so ashamed of myself for not having the mental preparedness to understand. Like,
you're working on it.
We if we were gonna sit down and we were gonna talk, this was gonna be a cut up of an hour of conversation where I was just going to be well and outmatched in any of my comedic wits by...
I graduated top dog in my class at Hot Dog High, so...
Do you have the plaque to prove it?
I don't have a plaque, but I do have my doggery. So, I'm sorry.
No, no.
It's becoming too corny. Some of these puns are the bratwurst.
Do you ever go and do stand-up comedy in different cities as a hot dogger when you're in these cities?
I totally should. No, I don't think I'll try to do stand-up until after my hot dogging year. I dabbled in it in college and bombed, of course. But maybe I'll take the puns to stand-up night.
I'm like 14 years into this, and I'm still no good at it. So,
right.
The only thing about being a comedian is not that you have to be funny. You just have to not quit. That's the trick to this.
I like that. I like the mentality.
So y'all, you and your sister, who is sitting here in the room, we'll wrap her in at some point in
Hi,
time.
Sky.
Y'all are townies.
We are.
And you're like generational townies too, because grandma's here.
Grandma's here, mom and dad are here, sister's here, and I'm on the hot dog highways. But I am born and raised Carbondale, Illinois.
Do you think that it prepared you to interact with all of these people and all of these places that you take this hot dog mobile to, the wiener mobile? Sorry, the hot dog mobile. What am I saying right now?
That's a funny question. Yeah, maybe. I've never thought about that, but Carbondale folks are a different breed for sure. So, and I interact with so many different people on the hot dog highways. I've been all over from Portland, Maine to North Carolina. So you definitely get a wide variety when you drive the Wienermobile.
That's good. That's good. Now, were you were you an active kid, like growing up in Carbondale, like got to experience all the things? You don't strike me as the type of person who was like stayed home and like just kind of hung out in your room and didn't really want to engage with a whole lot of folks.
Yes, I was very active. I danced at Susan Barnes at Willow Street Studios when it still existed. And yeah, that was kind of my whole life growing up, is dance all the time. I really loved to stay busy. In high school, I was in like every club, student council, key club, all that jazz. And I was a pretty good student. So when I wasn't busy, I was holed up in my room, reading. But yeah, I like to be active in the community. I like to stay busy.
That's good. That's good. I mean, it's healthy. Just having the stuff to be able to do. Did you? Is it an inherited thing? Like, are other parts of the family equally as like involved folks as you? And I'll wrap your sister in. Just assume that your sister is also equally like y'all share a lot of the same spirit.
For sure. I think the spirit's there. I mean, we're a little bit different, the rest of my family and me, but I think it's that the funness of being a character and just like being goofy, and there's a lot of goofiness, I think, in the family. I'm definitely more performative. I'm definitely a ham. But I think my family, when I took the hot dogger position, was kind of like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No one that I've met, like, none of my friends are like, why are you driving a hot dog? They're like, of course you're driving a hot dog. Like, it only made sense to everyone that I knew.
And I loved it when your grandma introduced like the whole kickoff of this whole thing was your grandma being like, okay, that's cool that there's a hot dogger in town, but there's a real hot dogger from Carbondale, and it's like, forget the knockoffs that are in town. God,
right.
God, Baloney Beth. Sorry, Baloney Beth. That's no.
Baloney.
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble right now. And then it just like has cascaded into a thing, and like you've landed multiple other media conversations since this whole thing started.
Yeah, I was in the Southern Illinoisan like a month ago, and it was, I've literally been on USA Today, CNN, Fox and Friends, but like being in the Southern Illinoisan was like so much more special to me than any of those national news coverages. I was like, my grandma texted me, she's like, you're in the paper, and I was like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, they put my face, like big old picture of my face in the paper, and it was really, really so exciting. So yeah, it's awesome to be in the local news.
Well, and it's not like your grandma ever called you. She was like, I saw you on CNN, but she saw you in the local paper.
Right.
And that's what matters.
Yeah.
Well, and you've got like just talking to you and starting to kind of get in the run of things here. Like, it's clear you have that journalist poignancy. Like, you understand how to deliver in sound bites. You understand how to go through the process of like, okay, I'm asked a question. I don't have to draw this out. It's let me get to the meat of the story that folks want to see. Now I'm making the
the meat. I didn't even catch it at first. The meat of the story. I love it. Yeah, and that's the great thing about hot dogging too. Is, I mean, it seems silly you're driving a giant hot dog, but you get a lot of skills. So, I mean, we appear in media all the time. We have to pitch that media. It's great for a journalism major. It's a driving PR firm on wheels, really. So
your task beyond, you know, the basic, you know, the tabling activity, the interaction stuff. There is a deeper you know, component to this, that you've got to be your own PR firm when you go out and you do this work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're kind of in charge of your own journey with the Wienermobile. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of it. And besides the job too, you know, you're in charge of making your own fun on your off days. How are you going to spend your off day in New York City with the Wienermobile, you know? So, you know, you can go and you can get national media, or you can stay in your hotel room. But the Wienermobile, you know, you're your own janitor, you're your own event coordinator, you're everything. Because our bosses, we've got 2 of them, and they're in Madison, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So we've got to do it all pretty much. We're the boots on the ground.
What is the managing of the Wienermobile activity look like? Are they just like checking in on you daily, just saying, hey, did you do XYZ thing? Okay, you're good. Have a good day.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty hands-off. So I have one boss that schedules all of our events. People can request the Wienermobile online, and that's how she kind of schedules them around the country.
Okay. All right.
So she gives us our schedule virtually. You know, we check into an app, see where we're going to go, and they don't really check in with us unless we have a problem.
Yeah.
So anytime I call my other boss, he answers, you know, what's the good news? Because he knows when we call him, it's typically bad news.
Is there any job safe negative experience that you can talk about, like having had that you like, oh God, I got to call the boss right now. Uh-oh.
There is. So when I was being featured in USA Today, we were in Washington, D.C., and me and my partner were driving around trying to find a parking space in Washington, D.C., a pretty difficult task. And so we've got USA Today in the vehicle. There's a reporter and like a photographer. We're driving around the National Mall. You know, we're sandwiched between the Capitol and the Washington Monument, and then we see police lights. And me and my partner were like a month into the position. This is our first national media hit ever. And we were like, just 1 second, USA Today. And we're like, hey, officer, you know, we got some reporters in the vehicle. And like, he did not care. He was not playing nice cop. He made us do like a whole DOT inspection and was like really trying to grill us. Pun intended. And, you know, it was a bit stressful, but like we really had to handle it with grace because USA Today was in the Wienermobile. Yeah. And it's just a funny memory because the headline of the story, if you look it up, is like, I got a ride in the Wienermobile, and then we got pulled over. It's just very funny. And, you know, she was very kind, and she twisted the story, you know, very nicely and spoke nicely about us. But it's like one of those moments, like, it's a driving vehicle, like, stuff is going to happen. You know, we didn't know it was illegal to drive on the National Mall in a truck, but, you know, you live and you learn.
Oh, so that was like the core of it was like, oops, you were actually operating in a space where if you were over a certain tonnage, you weren't supposed to be on that road. Right,
which we absolutely did not know. But, you know, with the Wienermobile, you know, sometimes you think you can get away with things, but sometimes a police officer pulls you over on the National Mall.
Well, and in terms of the PR function of it, are there folks that like really dig into the PR function and folks that kind of really dig into the event side of it, and everybody kind of has their own specialty? Like, you know, I'm this kind of hot dog, or I'm that kind of hot dog.
Oh, for sure. So there's 12 of us. We competed against thousands of people for 12 positions. 6 Wienermobiles, 12 hot doggers, and absolutely what you're saying. Like, some people really lean into the social media. They're going the influencer route. My partner, Baloney Beth, she's a media queen herself. She loves to go out there, get as many local news hits as she can. And then there's some people who are just like amazing at events, and they create the most memorable events for people. So I like to think I'm an all-around good hot dogger. No specialty, but yeah, some people really lean into different parts of the job.
And you're, you know, just being generally capable You got it locked.
Got it on lock.
Right, you got it locked down. Were you so you're graduated now? Like you've got the degree?
Yes. Yep. Graduated from UW in 2022.
How was your college experience? Like being somebody who grew up in a college town, right? And going somewhere else and experiencing somebody else's college town.
Sure.
Right? And I'm sure, University of Wisconsin probably a little bit bigger than Carbondale. It's not like you were just...
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big school, and that was, challenging at times, but, in a big school like that, you can really find your own community and really hone in on that. Yeah. I had a great college experience. I love Madison so much. I would move back there in a heartbeat, but the pandemic was in the middle of it. But, my senior year, everything was kind of back to normal. I really liked, in Madison, I delivered pizzas during the pandemic to make some cash. And I think my favorite part of Madison was driving outside of the college town because, as soon as you're outside of the university circle, like, the city's so vibrant. And I was just thinking that with Carbondale, I'm like, if you just you're passing through Carbondale and you don't know much about it, you're going to be like, well, so there's the Strip and there's the college, and it's like, no, there's so much more in Southern Illinois, and you really got to go out of your way to find it, I think. So I think that's a parallel from Madison to Carbondale for me.
What are some of your things that you're like when you think about home and when you reminisce just a little bit, right? What are some of the things that you're like, this is what makes me feel like I'm reconnected at home?
For sure. My mom actually lives in Alto Pass, so to get down to Alto Pass is just like the most scenic drive ever. And I got to do, the drive on 127 and 51 in the Wienermobile, and I was just like, that was just so nostalgic for me. It's just driving down, sunny day, wind in your hair, just like farmland and trees. It was just that, like, passing through Pomona and, thinking about all the hiking trails and all the nature that you can go explore. And then Makanda, of course. I'm excited to go to the Makanda Boardwalk tomorrow. Get some ice cream, I'm sure they'll freak out about the Wienermobile. So, and just, some local shops. I'm got to get some Cristados and some Long Branch. Just really, those are the essential things for me. Yeah, no, and that's good. That's good. So that was kind of going to be one of my other questions was like, hey, what's your restaurants like? What do you miss food wise about home? For sure.
Okay, good. That's a whole different question. Of do y'all have to eat hot dogs all the stinking time? Are you like?
We're not required to eat hot dogs. We don't have a quota we need to fill or anything. Don't worry. I have eaten like 60 hot dogs since June. I'm like trying to challenge myself to get up to 100, but I only have 2 months left of the job. I'm like, I'm not sure about that. You find yourself in places that have a lot of hot dogs. So like, we'll go to an event and there'll be a hot dog vendor there. It just people will invite you over and they'll have hot dogs. And you're like, I guess I'll go for a dog. Like, I genuinely like hot dogs too, so that's helpful. But we're not required to eat them. Don't worry.
and you're clearly not a vegetarian.
I'm not. I was like a flexitarian going into this job, and people are like, "What does that mean?"
I try and eat vegetables, but sometimes I eat a hamburger.
Exactly. So I was like, maybe my hot dogger name should be Vegan Dog Keagan. And I was like, but I really do like hot dogs, and my favorite topping is a chili cheese dog. So that's why my name is Chili Cheese Keegs.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good too.
What's your favorite hot dog topping?
So for me, mustard, plain and simple.
Plain.
And I'm mustard on anything, mustard on
Big
everything.
mustard guy.
Like, I'm a mustard
all
guy.
The way. Okay.
All
right.
I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I hate ranch. I love
Not
mustard.
into it. Okay.
Do you
I love
like
that for
ranch
you.
Either?
Huh?
You don't like ranch either?
Not a huge ranch person, no. And being like in Wisconsin, everyone is obsessed with ranch.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'll take a dab of ranch. I'm not dunking things into ranch now. No.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing. Like thinking about ranch brings us into the thought of like the Midwestern lifestyle, right? In that comparison, because we're I like to think that Carbondale, right, even though we're really right in the middle of everything, that we're still the Midwest.
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
But you tell that to somebody in Wisconsin, they'd be like, "You're not the Midwest. Get out of here, guy."
I feel like we're still the Midwest. I mean, I can see how we're maybe a little Southern. I like to play into both sides of it.
Right.
I don't know. Wisconsin has like this silly little fight with Illinois, but it's really like the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
I think what's most funny is like I travel all over and people are like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Southern Illinois. And they're like, you're from Champaign. And I say, no.
That's Central Illinois.
And I like to tell people I'm just from Missouri. just kind of Missouri. No, I don't actually say that, but I'm closer to Missouri than to Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why we root for the Cardinals instead of the Cubs down here. Or I'm sorry that some of us root for the Cardinals instead of the Cubs. Now we're all doing the.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it?
I'm not even a big sports fan. I feel like there's an alliance in my family. I'm not sure why. Like, we were never a big sports family, but I just think the clubs are the clubs.
The clubs.
The clubs. I'm Club Cub. I just think the Cubs are like, I don't know, there's something classier about them. I'm not sure what it is. Campier. My sister's saying they're campier because they're bad, like that's why it's funny. It's funny. I don't know. I don't like sports, but I am a Cubs fan.
That is campy. Like I keep trying to figure out like how the heck am I pinning down the Schlosser. I don't do names well.
It's a tongue twister for everyone. Trust me. Trust me, it's a tongue twister.
But like I'm trying to pin out because I keep saying this over and over again. I should have known better, but like I wasn't expecting the level of energy that was walking through the store today, or at least I hadn't prepared myself for it.
Sure.
And it's like that's what y'all have. Y'all have like and not like in a bad way, but like y'all have that campy or camp
thank you.
energy.
My sister's out there rooting. That's very kind. I'd love to be called campy. Not in a bad way.
So where do you feel like you draw this kind of energy and inspiration from? I mean, and I don't just mean like, oh well, our parents were a little silly, so we're a little silly and what have you. But like, do you feel like you've got creative inspirations that like draw out these components of your personality that are the campiest?
Sure. I don't know. I've always been really into performance. I mean, I did theater growing up. I was a dancer growing up. And like, this is kind of like being a Wienermobile driver is like kind of a performance. You're putting on all these puns and you're interacting with people in sort of a character. I'm Chili Cheese Keegs. And that's really fun for me. But beyond like the performance of it, like, you get to interact with people too, and it's just fun to make people smile, I think.
Yeah.
Make people laugh, and the Wienermobile, it's such an amazing job because everyone loves the Wienermobile and everyone has a memory with it.
Yeah.
And the best part of the job is you're making people's memories, People always come up to us and say like, oh my gosh, I remember when, or my dad used to take us out here. They just have so many fun memories with it, and that's just really special for me.
Did you ever think that you would get a chance to have such an influence or an impact on people, right? And it's not to discredit, like, it's okay, it's a silly promotional thing, it's the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, but like at the end of the day, like people are going to remember, like people aren't going to remember everything about everything in life, but they're going to remember the times that they got to interact with the freaking Wienermobile.
I know. It makes my heart warm and fuzzy. I never thought, like, even going into the job, I hadn't thought about maybe the impact that it's going to have. But it's really like a lived experience. Is you interact with so many people on a daily basis, and you give them wiener whistles, and you just see in their eyes how thankful they are for the experience. But yeah, I mean, I'm super thankful. I always joked, like, even in college, I was like, people would be like, so what do you want to do after school? What do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be famous. And now I'm like, I'm in national news. I'm on WTF Carbondale.
No big deal.
No big deal. Not a big deal. And I'm like, I kind of feel famous. And it's like, I love that I can be part of people's memories.
So, all right, I'll go a little bit deeper into the inspiration. What makes you this? What makes you that type of conversation? Because there's an interest in having this type of fame, this type of notoriety. Whether it's Keagan attached to something or something attached to Keagan. Yeah. Right? Is there something that you can kind of look back to and say, oh, this is this is why I'm interested in garnering and utilizing, personal notoriety to, just be part of people's lives.
Yeah, I think I just love attention.
That's it. I need the attention. That's it. Are you the oldest sister? Or they're
kind of the oldest. I'm like middle oldest.
All right, middle oldest.
No, I mean it's a good question, but like I don't know if I've pinned it down. I haven't self-reflected enough about that.
You're like, I'm not trying to do this for an audience right now. Chill out. Like I don't need to go. All of a sudden the face just gets real solemn. Oh no.
It all goes back to my childhood.
I have to think what I've hot dog done.
Keagan has always been Keagan. Yeah, like she's just always been a character, no matter like what. Like I was watching an old home video and she just kept on saying like she was looking in the camera and saying, "I'm pretty."
Girl, I'm pretty.
She was the main character and everything, and Keagan. Sorry.
No, nothing to apologize for. The mics will pick that up just enough for people to be like, okay, I can hear that, I can get a hold of it. Well, and I was getting ready to be like, oh well, what was it? The home video type stuff, and I'm like, but wait, if you're 23, then a home video was like still on an iPhone. That's.
No.
So not on like real tape. And
Not
like
when
a
your
Magnavox
parents grew up, raised you in Carbondale. It's not on an iPhone.
You're like, our whole home videos are still on VHS tapes.
Yeah, exactly.
So has media been like was media a part of your life growing up? Like were there just like little things like, oh, such and such has got a camera, or we know somebody that works at the paper, or like did you have early exposures to media and journalism and storytelling that kind of again has led to where you're at now?
Yeah, I think what you said, like storytelling, resonates with me the most. Is my dad, God bless him, will talk anyone's ear off. He is like the biggest storyteller I know. He's a yapper, and you bring up any topic of conversation, that man has a story from the 80s, or from his time in California and Fresno, and he's talking, and he's so excited to tell you, and he's so engaging. So I think that's maybe something from my childhood that maybe I latched onto, is just being able to have a conversation with anyone. When I was little, I probably watched The Wizard of Oz maybe 100 times, like in 1 year. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, like now media is so important to me, and I just really I think maybe the root of it all is just like thinking about how other people make you feel, whether that's on the TV or in person, and just like latching on to like, oh, that person is an amazing actor and I feel this way, or that person is an amazing person and it makes me feel this way, is I'm like, how can I do that for other people?
What perspective did going through J school give you on that component of like what you might put out in the world may have real impact on the way that people view the world around them, view themselves, view the people closest to them, like that your actions as a single individual amplified through the application of media has like real societal impact?
Interesting. I did not really take my journalism career seriously. I was the banter editor at my school newspaper. So like I said, I've never really taken myself too seriously. So I was like, write for hard news anyway. Satire. But I mean, my friends would read it and they would like text me and say like, oh my God, this genuinely made me laugh. And I was like, little old me, really? And then my senior year, as just like a side project, me and my best friend made like a sketch comedy, edited like a 20-minute video together, and we're very extra, so we had a premiere, and like 100 of our friends came, literally 100, and like my heart swelled, and I was like, oh my gosh, and they're laughing at all the right punchlines and all the jokes, and I was like, people really like are enjoying what I'm creating, and it was an amazing experience. So I mean, yeah, I had a good journalism schooling, I guess, but really it's like more the personal projects that mean the most to me.
Do you think you're going to do some more of that when you're when you step off the buns?
Yes, I think for sure. A lot of people on the road, I'm like, oh, I was a journalism major. And they're like, great, so you're documenting this experience and writing stories. And I was like, oh, no. I'm really busy and tired most of the time. But I think I've missed that. And yeah, I think after this, I'm ready to jump into some more production.
Well, I'm gonna throw out the project that I was getting into explaining on the board over here that I never really like dug into. Like I'm a year and a half behind where I want to be with it, but that's generally how things go. You try stuff and you just keep working at it, and eventually you'll get there, but you'll always be behind your schedule. Mm-hmm. But this concept of Creatordale, of like Carbondale as a place where we can develop a critical mass of media makers and storytellers and videographers and sound engineers and musicians and writers and makeup artists and the whole shebang. Like, that's what I'm trying to make out of all of this. Like,
love that.
WTF Carbondale isn't the thing. WTF Carbondale is like my contribution to the thing that I hope to see. And so this is me inviting you. Like, I'm not trying to be like, hey, will you please move back to Carbondale and make social and make sketch comedy skits? Yeah. But like, I want to like throw out there at you because like you are absolutely the kind of character who I would love to have involved in this project. Is like every now and then you're just touching in at home, and whatever you may be doing elsewhere in the world, you tie just a little bit of it back to Carbondale and Southern Illinois. And I don't know, just a good example. So Danny Damien, too many Damians.
Of course,
around.
Double D.
Do you? Because y'all are just a little bit younger than Danny. Do you know Danny?
Yeah, I knew him a little bit back in the day.
So, like, Danny, I just had Danny on the podcast a couple podcasts ago, and, like, he's pushing his way into 1 million followers on YouTube and TikTok and whatever else.
Good for him.
It's doable.
Yeah.
Right? When you have the personality, when you have the structure, when you have the mindset and the go for, like, you can make it happen. Mm-hmm. You just really strike me as one of those folks that can make this type of thing happen.
Ah, you're too sweet. You're making my puns blood. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm running out of good hot dog puns in my own brain. Like I'm grasping for straws.
Just try to catch up. You won't.
I just don't want to be a mustard. That's all. Oh, God. Stop me. It's not good.
Went a little far. I like that one. I like that one. You did what you had to do.
So for you, like organizing this stuff, was it just like the one skit was the one production thing that you've done, or have you done like little things all throughout, or like what are the different projects that you've gotten to work on that you're really like, hey, this is what I enjoy and this is what I would like to try and replicate professionally. Yeah. If that's something that I'm going to follow the line on.
Yeah. So I did banter for my student newspaper. I did a documentary in college for a class, which was fun. I mean, I really do think I gravitate a little more towards comedy. So I'm trying to think, what did I do? I did a podcast myself. Uh-huh. I did one episode of the Awk-cast. I was like, what could I make a podcast about? I was like, awkward moments. And so
that's fun.
It's just like, yeah, like weird sound bites and like weird like sound effects. And I'm huge into like photoshopping funny things. Uh-huh. So if you go to my Hotdogger Instagram, you can see my hot dog related movies or like movies that I photoshopped hot dogs into. So just like weird little just like things to make myself laugh.
I feel like there is a Katie. I used to work with her at New Kahala many years ago.
Okay.
And she makes like wood blocks and she paints them as like parody movie VHS. She's VHS girl on the internet. And I feel like there's something between what she does and what you do where like there should be a VHS girl, chili cheese Keegs.
Chili cheese, hot dog. VHS hot glizzy girl. VHS glizzy girl. That's me. Yeah.
Like,
that's cool.
I feel like I'm gonna try and make that connection with this also. Because like that, if she did a like an Oscar Mayer like a hot dog set, like she could like pick 6 movies that it made sense to, and then like paint them in the same way that you would be inspired to create your own thing.
I love that. Yeah. I'm into that. My favorite creation that I've done, once again on my Instagram, not a plug at all, on _chili cheese, chili cheese keeks, is back to the furter. Because people always say that it's a gull wing door, so it opens up like the DeLorean opens up. So it was perfect. I like to say it's back to the furter. That's my favorite creation. So let's get on a VHS set. Back to the furter.
Are you guys surprised that the Hotdogger activity isn't more viral than what it is? Like kind of surprised that all the Hotdoggers don't themselves have millions of followers each with more and more stuff. I looking at it, I'm like, okay, cool. There's a good following, but it's not like blowing you out of the water.
Right.
Like, and I don't mean to like downplay the work that you guys are doing. I'm not trying to be here. I'm like, why the heck aren't you more viral? But like,
I thought 634 followers was a lot. Thanks though.
Excuse you.
No, I think we have personal Instagrams or Hotdogger Instagrams. But I think TikTok is where the virality is. So if we had Hotdogger TikToks, I think we could definitely be a little bit more popular. But right now we're on Reels. So that's kind of like, we're kind of behind on the times there.
Is there a structure, like, does the Hotdogger handbook have like a particular, hey, here's your social media channels that we want you concentrated on, here's your other stuff where we want you to do, like, is that all pretty much spelled out for you?
The Instagrams are really just for fun. They're just for our family, friends, and fans to follow us. They don't really have any, any meaning for the company, but we do also get to contribute to Oscar Mayer social channels. So they have asks of us, so that's great for, resume building as well.
Do you think that is there an interest in trying to get into the corporate Oscar Mayer entity when you're done with it? Is there like a path from Hotdogger to Top Dog, or?
Yeah, I mean, some people definitely go on to work for Oscar Mayer and Kraft Heinz, which is the parent company. I'm not looking into it right now personally. I'm looking into more experiential marketing because that's what excites me, is events and interacting with people and making people excited about things. But yeah, I mean, maybe one day I'll go back to the meat of things. That I was just the meat anyway. Anyway, no, yeah, there you go.
No, and I mean, that's to get a feel for that. That's interesting because like there are so many different directions that you can go with a skill like this, right? And anymore in this day and age, what people kind of miss is that it's not just about physical, it's not just about digital, it is about being this bridge to both.
Right.
Right. And understanding that you don't even necessarily have control over what that bridge from what you're doing in a physical space to what is being shared in a digital space, or how what is being shared in a digital space reflects on what's really occurring in a physical space. Like you don't have all the control over that.
No, we do not. I mean, we drive constantly, and there's always someone taking a picture of us. Yeah. Always a smile and a wave, and someone on their iPhone, like, no hands on the wheels, like pulling up their camera, like fumbling around. I'm like, oh my God, let's just drive. But no, people are always, and that's what our boss says too, is perception is reality. So, that's why, I mean, we have rules in place. No one can sit in the driver's seat of the Wienermobile because they're not a hot dogger.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I've had so many pictures taken of me this year. Also leaning into the celebrity that way. Posing.
I got this. And pose. Inbox. Well, and that even if there's not this controlled following that any individual Hotdogger has, that the reality is when you roll into a place, the ripple effect that you'll never understand and you'll never see yourself, right? That you've put it out there into the world and now it exists. And there's tens of thousands of photos out there of you and that hot dog mobile, the Wienermobile, and everything that you've done that you'll never see back your way,
right?
But you know that you've influenced folks on their end.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, it's interesting to think, and people will show us old pictures of other hot doggers all the time, and it's funny to see all the connections.
Has the structure of the Hotdogger program always been what it is now, or is it like evolved into a whole fleet of what do you call six giant hot dogs?
We call it a fleet. The
yeah.
meat fleet, yeah. We do.
But did it used to just be one hot dog, one Wienermobile? I don't know why I want to keep calling it the hot dog mobile.
You and every 6-year-old out there. Sorry.
No,
I'm sorry, Nathan.
No, nothing to apologize for. I could use a little roasting myself.
Weenie roasting. A little weenie roasting. Sure, I like it. I like it. Yeah. So a little history lesson for you. The first Wienermobile came out in 1936. I know, almost 90 years ago, during the Great Depression. Oscar Mayer's nephew, Carl Meyer, was the guy who invented it. Crazy kook, Carl. And he invented it in Chicago as a way to make people smile during the Great Depression and as a way to sell meat. And it just became so popular that they kept making Wienermobiles. So in 1952, it started touring around the country. And then in 1988, they started the Hotdogger program, and that's when the fleet of 6 started driving around the country with 12 recent college grads. So the Wienermobile or Hotdogger program has been around for 35 years.
Wow.
And that's fun, too, is wherever we go, there's alumni, Hotdogger alumni. So we'll go grab dinner with them. They'll tell us their crazy stories of times ago when there was no GPS or cell phones, and you have to drive a Wienermobile across the country. So it's really fun to connect with them because they're the only people who understand the job, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that is interesting. I hadn't even thought about, there's a network of, at this point, hundreds, right? 12 times 35 gets you to,
400.
There you go.
So,
ballpark.
fun fact, more people have been to space than have driven the Wienermobile. That is a fun fact. So, it's around 400, 450. It's true.
You're in a club more exclusive than astronauts.
Than space, baby. Yeah, it is. It feels good because, some people are like, are your parents proud that you drive a giant hot dog? And I'm like, yeah, it's harder to be a hot dog than it is to get into Harvard. So I hope they're proud.
What is it? So, in the process of I'm trying to find a hot dog pun about fighting to get into a slot. Anyway, I'm gonna
pass.
If they don't come naturally, I'm just gonna have to give them up.
Yeah, they don't come 100% all natural to you. They do not.
But competing for a slot like this, right? What are there things that you had to do to be a standout, to make clear hey, I am a fit for this? Or was it just they read your resumes and they picked 12 people, and if those 12 people land, great, and if not, we'll weed them out and go grab 2 others?
Yeah, well, I definitely beefed up my resume for sure. Okay. But really, our bosses look for personality. They're trying to see who's going to be a good fit to talk to hundreds of people in 100-degree heat for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And so, the interview process was really just getting to know you, getting to know your personality. One of the interview questions was, what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you? When are you ever going to answer that question in an interview setting? A formal, I'm like,
oh, I was going to say right here on this podcast right now.
I can tell you what it was is, and the question took me so off guard, and I'm sitting there so nervous, zooming in my wiener whistle earrings and my formal clothes, and I was like, I don't know if this is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me, but a very core memory of mine is when I was in kindergarten. We were having a Christmas party, and there's a little knives that you put into sandwiches, the little plastic knives, and I took it out and I looked at my kindergarten crush and I said, "Do you want to fart? Fight." It's why is that stuck in my memory till this day? It literally makes me embarrassed. And I was I don't know if it's I embarrass myself on the daily basis. It's surely not the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me, but that was my answer in the interview. So, you know.
Well, and that is good, right? In terms of right, we're all stuck with these memories that nobody else will ever remember, but they are burned into our memories.
Right.
And we hate them, and we're like, why did this happen like this, right? And this thing that happened when you were 6 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old will live with you forever,
Right.
and nobody else will ever care, but it will always dig away at the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
And
painful.
it's like having to pull something like that out and like share it
I know.
during an interview.
I know. Yeah. They want to make sure that like it all comes back to not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
You can embarrass yourself in front of consumers. I mean, driving a giant wiener. people are going to embarrass you. You're going to want to embarrass yourself, you know, for the sake of making people laugh.
Yeah.
What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Shoo.
See, it's hard on the spot.
Yeah.
In an interview setting.
It totally is, because I had thought about this question as I was asking you the question,
Right.
and then I was like, oh, that's an awful memory, right? But it was totally like being 6 years old and being at a wedding and like making a mess of myself to the point where like my grandmother had to come pick me up from this place where I was at with my parents, because like they're in the middle of their thing, and it's like you can't just take this kid out back and hose him down because he's just covered in schmutz and whatever else, because and so like that's the memory that like popped into my head as I was asking you the question, and I was like, oh my gosh. Right? And it's not like, and so I'm a parent, like I've got 12-year-old kids, you know, that are might as well be adults at this point, and it's like, you know, I think of it in terms of now it's like, okay, I was 6 years old. That wasn't actually an embarrassing thing. That was just what happens when you're 6 years old.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it all of a sudden like doesn't weight as much towards this adult existence now. You're just like, oh, it's just life. That's just an experience. Oops, something happened. Take care of yourself. Move on.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't turn that memory off though.
No.
Now you're repeating it at 33.
Yep.
You're going to remember it for a while
Forever.
now.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, that's good. That's good. Well, and so that gets me into another question for you is, right, you have the capacity to not just talk to people and carry on conversation, but you explore folks when you're out and you're engaging with them, right? Like you're finding out in a short period of time what has motivated them to be so excited about a 27-foot hot dog
Right.
driving around on wheels, right?
Right.
Have you always been a person who's been interested in exploring those around you, whether they're around you for a long period of time or just a momentary interaction?
For sure. I like to think I'm a great listener, and I like listening to people. And when you drive the Wienermobile, people will talk to you for a really, really long time. But those are my favorite people to interact with, because they need someone to talk to probably, or they need to get something off their chest, or they want to tell their story, and I am all ears. And you know, sometimes I'll forget what they said the next moment, but like sometimes it really sticks with you. And with the Wienermobile too, like I said, just like people have such important memories. Is a lot of people remember a loved one through the Wienermobile. And like one of my first ever events in Virginia, this lady like came up to me and my partner, and she was like, this means so much to me. Like, my son recently passed away, and the happiest I ever saw him before he passed was being with the Wienermobile. And she got really, really emotional and, you know, started crying. And it's moments like those that just, I know, and she was really, really touching. And she showed us pictures of him in front of the Wienermobile and just told us his story. And a lot of people, you know, remember a grandparent or their father, or, you know, so we get stories like that a lot, and those mean a lot, and it really is important to have that listening ear in those moments too.
That's good. That's such a heartstring tug. Like,
For sure.
Do they prepare you for things of that magnitude in Hotdogger school, where they're like, listen, there's going to be some heavy stuff?
Yeah, honestly, not really. No, they didn't. I mean, I think that they kind of just assume after the intensive interview process that we're hopefully the kind of people that are willing to listen to that kind of stuff. And, you know, we're generally a kind-hearted bunch. So I think they just have that faith in us. But yeah, after being on the hot dog highways, there's some stories out there that will stick with me forever.
Yeah. What else am I got like 10 minutes to hit my hour mark. That's why I try and benchmark myself as like these, like I think that the podcasts, okay, good podcast, you get an hour. Hours like your cutoff. Like that's where people are good at. What am I missing? Like what should I be asking you that I'm not, like what should I be exploring in the last 10 minutes that we've got chatting before you get to run off and eat dinner that's not a hot dog? Or like maybe it is, I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think something for me has been like personal growth.
Yeah.
Is you learn a lot about yourself on the road, on the hot dog highways. And, you know, I talked to hot doggers before this job and they said the same thing. They're like, this job prepares you to talk to anyone, to, you know, confront anyone, teaches you a lot about yourself. And I think it's true. Is like, I've really, you know, come to terms with and like changed how I interact and like, because my co-pilot is my coworker and my friend and my roommate. Yeah. And we have all of these relationships in one. And I feel like I've really chilled out. Yeah. Believe it or not, becoming a hot dogger is like understanding people's perspectives and, you know, like maybe not even knowing why they want to do it, but just hearing them out and being patient with them. So I've acquired a lot of patience because I have nothing to do besides, you know, interact with people. It's not, I'm in a new city every week. It's not like I have somewhere to be when I'm in the middle of Tennessee, you know? So it's like, you know, it's just that patience of hearing people out, of realizing this may be the last time someone's going to see the Wienermobile, so you may as well make it such a positive experience.
Yeah. Well, and somebody posted earlier today, and they were like, I've waited my whole life to see the Wienermobile, right? Somebody who's 65, 70 years old being like, it's my first time getting to see it.
We get that so frequently. I love that so much. I'm so happy for those people out there who finally get to see it. And some people are lucky. Like, we met a girl today. She was like, oh, yeah, I saw it when I was in Puerto Rico this summer, and I saw it last time I was in Carbondale, and I'm seeing it now. And I was like, what? How'd you get so lucky? I saw it once before this job. It's crazy. I don't know.
And it's like, I get it. I wake up and I walk out a door and I see it, but it's like...
Yeah, it's different.
No, I mean, that's so cool. Like, and I'm so glad that you are one of the folks that gets to have this experience, because you're the type of person who, having this experience, it will yield value for you and other folks that you get to interact with throughout the rest of your life, right? Like the hot dog highways, 1 year of your life will yield a lifetime of value to you and the folks that get to be in your orbit.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I am super thankful. And I'm glad to represent Carbondale. I feel like it's been very exciting having my neighbors and, you know, old teachers and friends come see such an exciting thing.
Have you had any unexpected Carbondale interactions outside of Carbondale doing Wienermobile stuff? Like, you know, obviously you're not running around wearing Saluki garb, so nobody just sees you and goes, Saluki maroon. But like, have you had an unexpected Carbondale interaction outside of Carbondale in the context of your hot dogging?
I met this lady in maybe Tennessee or somewhere on the East Coast maybe, and she was like, oh, it's so funny. I went to Oscar Mayer like middle school in Chicago. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. My, you know, whoever's from Chicago, but I'm from Southern Illinois, just a suburb 6 hours south of Chicago. And she was like, oh, Southern Illinois, where from? And I was like, Carbondale. And she said, I went to high school there. Like, I'm a Terrier. And so I was like, no way. You went to Oscar Mayer Middle School and then you graduated from CCHS? Like, that's really crazy. So I got her email.
Go dogs.
And yeah,
Sorry,
go dogs.
Right, sorry.
But she was really cool. And she has this like scholarship too that she's like, oh my gosh, and I was the class president and I told her that, and she's like, you should like donate to the scholarship, have your class donate to the scholarship. And I was like, we are 22, but
I don't know if you know what it's like to not have money, but we don't.
Maybe in 10 years, but that was like one that I was like, that's crazy. But I always am shocked when I'm on the East Coast and I say Southern Illinois usually, and people are like, well, where? And I say Carbondale, they're like, of course I know Carbondale. And I was like, Okay, sorry for assuming. We're in Boston right now. Like, sometimes people know Carbondale, and I think it's epic.
That is, and that is like part of this whole project too, right? Is like giving people a window into a Carbondale that they may have some kind of interest in connecting with in some way, but it'll never be a physical connection ever again, or something in some type of some type of longer form way. It will always just be a memory or at a distance. And it's like, okay, well, if you can relive that memory or reconnect with that character, right? That was the other thing, right? You're talking about, hey, I like being the character, putting on the hat. The hat. So talk about the hat, because the hat is not technically.
No, this is an Oscar Mayer hat that I'm wearing. It is mustard yellow, splash of ketchup red for those who can't see. It's a racing hat back when we used to sponsor like a NASCAR driver. Bought it on eBay. This fabulous trucker hat. People love it. People love Wienermobile merch, Wienermobilia, as I call it. People want to buy this hat off me every single day, along with the bologna bag. The bologna bag has been very, very popular. Fanny packs are really in right now, but this is a Hotdogger exclusive. You could probably find another one of these on eBay, though.
But you're never going to find another. You're not. The fanny packs are strictly for the hot doggers. Strictly
for Hotdoggers. Our bosses have confirmed. Except for the right price.
Like, that's a really right. It's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Good luck. God bless you. But you didn't sign anything that said I will never resell this fanny pack. So
I didn't sign anything. I could resell it if I wanted to, but I won't. I won't. Of course, I will relish it forever. It's awesome.
There it is. There's the hot dog pun of the podcast right there. I will relish it forever. What does storage look like? I mean, you're driving around with merch all the time. Are you like drop shipping to yourselves, like out in the field, and like not everything lives in the Wienermobile all the time?
Yeah.
Like,
everything past the Wienermobile logo is a closet. So the back end of the Wiener is a closet, just so everyone knows.
Okay.
That's where we keep our suitcases and our boxes of Wiener whistles. But our boss does ship things out to us. So she'll ship Wiener whistles and swag and stuff like that. It's like difficult to order a swimsuit online sometimes, because sometimes we don't know where we're going on Monday and it's Friday. But it's doable.
Do you take any like regular person clothes with you, or do you strictly wear Oscar Mayer Wiener like hot dog clothes 24/7?
Of course, I wear regular clothes sometimes.
I don't know.
It's fun to wear Oscar Mayer wear out in public if you want to be recognized, because people will be like, oh, the Wienermobile's in town. Are you the Wienermobile driver? And I'm like, yeah. But if you're trying to go incognito, I brought a sweaters in the Wienermobile right now for me to change in for dinner.
That's right.
Yeah, but last night I did go to Quattro's in my hot dog costume just to kind of make sure everyone knew.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And at some point in time when you walked by a table, somebody was like, could you refill my tea here? And you were like, oh, no, I'm sorry. It's not a Quattro's shirt. It's an Oscar Mayer Hotdogger shirt.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess it does look like a Quattro's uniform now that I think about it. It does.
As a former Quattro's employee can confirm.
Yeah.
Definitely. It looks much more comfortable than a Quattro shirt, because they're like wearing burlap, and the shirt you're wearing looks like it's satin. Not polyester or whatever. The shiny
it is nice.
Under Armour type material.
Exactly. Maybe I'll make a satin Wienermobile shirt for my next interview.
You need like a Wienermobile, like a whole, I don't know.
A gown.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
A gown. I do have a bag in the Wienermobile that says Wiener Queen, so I'm looking for a Wiener tiara to match. If we could get anyone on that. Thank you. We're talking about Creator Dale. Let's get a Wiener tiara for me, please.
You know what? I'm writing on the board when y'all walk out of here. I'm just writing Wiener Queen on the board.
I love that.
And it can just live there until it happens.
Awesome.
What am I missing?
I was thinking about, like, the Wiener Queen made me think of some super fans. There's some Wienermobile super fans out there. There's this lady from Springfield, Illinois, and she just like owns everything that Oscar Mayer has ever produced. Any Wienermobile swag, she has it, and she has like this like 50s pinup Wienermobile outfit that she wears all the time, and she is very into it, and I love her, so much. She's awesome. But there's some crazy Wienermobile fans out there, crazy in a good way, of course.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's it. Like, some people just get tied to the iconicity of it, and they're like, this is it. This is what I relate to.
Yeah,
right.
Like, giant hot dog. And I think like I said, I'm not thinking about working for Oscar Mayer, but it is like such a fun brand. It's like a brand that's all about like just having fun and just like taking life less seriously, just kicking back and eating some bacon, I guess. You know, it's like a fun brand to work for sure.
Well, and that is about as perfect as a spot to outro on, because this has been a fun podcast, right? We never know where the conversation's going to go.
Never.
On the WTF Carbondale podcast, but they always go somewhere. And you know what? This one went on the hot dog highway. That's where it went. Episode 114 of the WTF Carbondale podcast. Have a good one, folks.
Chili cheese out.
Out. Whatever that one may be.